Hello, everyone, and welcome to DM Talk, episode 32. Tonight, we're going to talk about campaign ideas. How do you, as a DM, or if you're just coming up with a story, how do you run your campaign? How do you begin your campaign? There's got to be some form of beginning. It starts with an idea. Do you get it from TV, magazines? Do you get your ideas from, novels, some form of sci-fi books or fantasy novels? Whatever idea comes up, whatever idea you come up with, that's wonderful, because tonight it's campaign ideas. Now, in the background, you might hear, we just got a puppy, so if you hear a puppy squealing in the background, well, it's all part of the aesthetics. Anyways, that being said, campaign ideas. So how do we begin with your campaign? So for me, I love watching sci-fi movies, fantasy movies. I read books. I flood myself with, I immerse myself with a lot of stuff. A lot of reading, a lot of watching series, whatever it is, I like that stuff. It just gives me the inspiration to begin a campaign. Now, in any campaign, that beginning is important, because before you even have your session zero, you decide to talk to your guys. Before you do any of that, the idea has to come from you. Is your idea a goblin campaign? Is it a story of hope? Is it a story of high adventure? Is it dungeon crawl? Well, tonight we're going to start with campaign 2, where I get my idea, my inspiration. Well, I got my inspiration from pirates, believe it or not. Campaign 2 was, the inspiration is pirate. I always wanted a pirate campaign. Now, that's not a puppy. That's my other dog barking. Sorry, aesthetics, right? Anyways, campaign ideas are fantastic. And I love, I get my inspiration from, like I said, pirates. I wanted a pirate campaign, and campaign 2 is more personal, more invigorating. I wanted something larger, but on a scale of adventure. And I wanted the guys to experience adventure in a different way. Campaign 1, for me, it was high adventure, high magic, swords, powerful items, and things like that. Those are wonderful ways to bring life to your campaign. Now, with that being said, there is one important aspect that you have to understand. In a campaign, whether it's high adventure, high magic, high power, whatever it is you decide to do, get your players going. You just say, hey, this is my idea, this is my inspiration. What do you think? Now, sometimes, believe it or not, your guys might knock it down. The players may say, well, maybe it's not going to work for the type of character I want. Because ultimately, that's the key, right? Is to grab your story, pitch your story to your players and say, look, this is what I want for the campaign. This is what I want. And the rules that D&D has, and any role-playing game is, you're the final draw. But here's the problem with that. I believe that wholeheartedly. But when you have a bunch of guys and gals together, as a whole, you decide, hey man, this is what I want. What do you think? They give you feedback, and you go from there. That's how a story flourishes. And in campaign 2, I wanted pirates, and if you're watching, there's a lot of pirates, and I wanted high adventure. They're getting high adventure with an intriguing story, but I also wanted the story to be grounded. I wanted it to be big in some ways, but the big thing is the character connection. Campaign 2 has a lot of character connection. And Campaign 1 was high adventure, high magic, high power, save the world type of thing. Where Campaign 2, there's a lot more connection. Yeah, there's going to be some of the elements of Campaign 1, but I wanted things to be more grounded. I wanted them to have that connection, the consequences if they do something wrong in the story, arcs, or whatnot. And those are the things in a campaign, in the beginning of a campaign, that you really have to bring together. Because in a campaign, the most important part of it, yeah, you can say the story and you want things to flow and you want things to be epic. That's all wonderful, but understand this. If you don't have that inspiration, that drive, that fire from the beginning, let's say I was watching a movie and it's an awesome sci-fi movie, and it was part of that film, it just gave you that inspiration, that inspiration to give you something, to give you drive to create a campaign. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you watch your favorite fantasy show, and it gives you that inspiration to create a campaign, then do it. Because campaigns, believe it or not, are the core of any role-playing game. Especially you have a group of players, that connection, that feel. And let me know what you all think. Let me know, what is your inspiration? What do you guys think? How do you begin your campaigns? Where do you get your inspiration from? Is it books, novels, stuff like that? Do you like reading your favorite fantasy novel? Maybe it's horror books. Maybe it's something that get things out of newspapers, clips out of newspapers, stories out of that, and say, you know what, this will be a good story arc for my campaign. Because ideas, all that stuff is here. And sometimes that inspiration really, what's next? Talking ideas. Hey, whatever you want. Riley, let me know. Where's your inspiration, Riley? Where do you get your inspiration from? Thank you for your comment. I'm not going to get to all the comments, but go ahead and bring them down here. Let me know what you think and so forth. But inspiration is key. Bringing that drive, getting those ideas out there is the number one thing to begin your campaign, to make it flourish. Let's say you're looking at a clip in the newspaper and it happens to be negative, and that whatever it is in the newspaper that's negative you want to bring into your campaign, and say, let's say a topic is murder, right? You want a murder mystery. Well, you want to drive your campaign, it's a murder mystery. And how do you do that? Every GM has their inspiration. And once they have that inspiration, they bring it down, they pitch it to their party. You have the session 0. Once you have that, you move forward with the campaign. And everybody's in agreement. Because to me, you could come up with something fantastic. Let's say you want to do a Spelljammer campaign, right? High fantasy and space. You want to do that. Well, let's say that you pitch that idea to your players, and your players don't like it. They're like, nah, we really don't want to do it. Because role-playing, guys, it's not just about me. It's about everyone. It's about the party at the table, and it's their ideas and your ideas as well. Video games. Video games is awesome. Thank you, Riley, for that comment. Video games is awesome. Let's say you want a Final Fantasy, or you want to do a Mario type of game. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you have those concepts and bring them into your world and create. Let's say your world, you're traveling a jungle, you're in this jungle, and in that jungle, there's a bit of technology. And there happens to be these large mushroom-like characters that rush you. They have pitchforks, they have spears, they have shields. Again, video games ideas. Bring that magic into your campaign, into your story. Not taking complete someone else's story, but using the elements of that story in yours. And there's nothing wrong with that. When you get inspiration, that drives you to create. To create is the topic of tonight, is creating. What is your inspiration? My inspiration for season 2 were pirates. And the pirates went from there. The story of a bunch of orphans, the story of adventure, the story of they were dungeon crawling right now, and they're finding elements of what happened to them as children, and now they're opening up different things without going into any spoilers. They're opening up different things to explain the reasons of what happened before. Again, try not to go into spoilers. Riley said you should look up recaps and stories from any game created from software. Right up your alley. Thank you. That's a great comment. That's great. That's wonderful to do. Anything, any idea, any inspiration, especially something which Riley so elegantly commented. That's great, because once you have those tools, it'll really bring magic to your campaign. Now, elements of your campaign. I said before, the NPCs, we talked about NPCs. What are NPCs? Non-player characters. Those are great elements in your game. They're in every role-playing game. They're in video games. They're in movies. They're all over. NPCs are non-player characters. Those are the ones that you meet in the world. And I have a ton of NPCs in my game. Now, how do you bring that inspiration to life? To me, the pirates they're a part of the story. And the players, the campaign, the party, they meet these NPCs. They're pirates. They interact with them. And after that interacting, it really brings the magic in the campaign. Riley mentioned mythological, dynamic, exhilarating, intense, you name it, they've got it. Awesome. I got to check that out. Thank you for your comment. Those are the things that make up a campaign. Mythical, dynamic. Everything is exhilarating. It's intense. That intensity in your game. What drives you? What makes the campaign bigger than life? Because remember, for 4.5 hours, you are immersing yourself in a fantasy setting, in a space setting, in a sci-fi setting, in a horror setting. Whatever setting you create, whatever immersive, exhilarating, dynamic, mythical setting you create, whatever inspiration comes to you, those players, those people that you have at your table for 4.5 hours will experience all of that. That's the magic of role-playing. Role-playing takes you away from the world that we live in today. Whether it's negative, positive, whatever, it takes you away from those things and brings you in, just like video games do. But role-playing even more, because you're interacting with other people. You're role-playing the part of the character that you want to be, whether it's a rogue, a paladin, a fighter, a cleric, a druid. Those are the things that you play. If you're playing Cyberpunk, You're playing someone that immerses he or she self in the world of cyber technology, in the world where everything isn't what it seems. Those are the things that role-playing is. Now, role-playing for inspiration, you can get those things, like I mentioned before, in movies, books, software, games. But bringing those elements to the game opens up adventure, opens up the dynamic of your story. Now, let's say that your story, every story needs a beginning, right? Campaign 2 started with pirates that moved on to a cave in the Underdark. I'm trying not to get the spoilers. So from that point, it moved on. There's a start. Where is your start? That's what inspiration is. Where is your start? Is it a start in a ship in space? Is that start on a bike going 100 miles per hour with your helmet down and looking at it heads-up display? Looking back, you see a semi, flickering lights. You see a missile flying past you as your bike goes left and right. Those are the things that you immerse yourself in. What happens to you? What happens when all those things come together? Where is your beginning? Is it on a stranded island with other characters? The bard, the druid, the fighter. They're with you, a party of 6. They're on this desolate island. You look around, you see a body of water, and you see behind you a dense forest. What do? Is that your beginning? Or is your beginning in an abandoned building? Lights flickering in the background. You hear these constructs slamming on the ground. The building shakes, explosions all around you. You hear gunfire. You have your weapon at your side. You're hiding behind some form of metal object or beam. You look around you and you see another person who has visors. You can see the red glowing eyes behind the visors. Where is your beginning? Or is your beginning in a tunnel? You're running. You could hear your breath. You could feel your heartbeat. You're sweating. And behind you, you see a vehicle racing 100 miles per hour behind you. Where is your beginning? You're on your bed. You wake up and sweat. You look around you. The lights flicker. You hear a crash in the distance. Somewhere in your house, someone broke in. You go to grab your gun, you reach around the corner, you look around, and you see this hideous creature. Almond eyes, fork-like tongue, gray skin. What do? Where is your beginning? Those are the things that make up role-playing. The beginning, the middle, the end of your story. In a campaign, anything could happen. It's up to you to immerse yourself in this story, to bring your players, the cast of your story, in. Now, not all stories begin the way you want. It's all part of role-playing, folks. It's all part of role-playing. Campaign ideas. Let's say that you're playing a video game. And in that video game, let's say you're playing a role-playing game. There's a role-playing game, Throne and Liberty. Funny, I'm playing that too. Anyways, you're playing that video game and it has an immersive story. You're playing with your friends, and what makes that video game good? Have you ever had a character turn evil, due to the events in the campaign. What's your opinion of that? Thank you, Riley. What's my opinion? Yes. I've had a good question. I've had a player or their character turn evil. Yes. Towards the end of campaign 1, one of the players turned evil, and it happens. The arc turns evil. They can do that. Now, in the role-playing game, in a D&D, for example, there's alignments. And a lot of players pick lawful good, neutral, chaotic, evil. Well, not that one, but chaotic, neutral. Whatever they pick, they role-play in the beginning of the campaign. And if they stray from that, then that's where the story arc takes a turn. In my campaigns, for me personally, I think it's a challenge that if someone breaks off from that character. Is it a challenge for a DM? Absolutely. Is it fun? Yes, because it challenges me and it inspires me to do better. For example, if someone turns evil, then you have to relate. You have to bring that story into your campaign and change things on the fly. The inspiration, the connection that character had with the other characters and players, the betrayal, all that stuff. Because in a game, the most important part are the player characters, are the PCs. And if something happens to one of them where they change and they turn evil or they died or whatnot, as a DM, you're going to have to explain it. You're going to have to say, well, he's evil, leave him alone. No. Explain why that person turned evil. There's consequences. For example, if he was a paladin, and a paladin can be evil, but in this case, in season 1, one of the players turned evil, and he went to a bar, a tavern, and killed the owner of the tavern. But to be fair, the owner of the tavern had a deed. And that deed was originally his information. And the tavern owner was misleading him, was lying. So yeah, he sort of had a reason to kill the tavern, the manager, the owner, because he was gone adventuring and he came back, and this guy happened to literally just change everything on the fly. Change it so much that he didn't even know his own tavern. And at that point, he came back. He's like, who is this guy? Oh, I'm the owner of the tavern. And the player comes in and goes, no, you're not. So he got angry and killed him in game. But that changed things, because now blood and blood, he got a little bit angrier, and he started to kill more and more. His anger was so much that he started to leave a trail. And then the other player characters had to eventually confront him. And my opinion of that is, if that happens, explain it in story. Don't just let it happen. Hopefully that helped your question. Hopefully that answered your question, Riley. Getting back to what I was talking about. I was talking about inspiration. And Riley, really, his question, what happens when a character turns evil, and how do you deal with that? And whatever inspiration you get in your story, and I'm going to connect what Riley said. Whatever inspiration you have in your story, and if you have a solid inspiration, know this. that the players will do their own thing, because the players are just as part of the story as what you're creating. For example, if you're creating a pirate adventure, right? And they're in a ship and they want to cause havoc in this town. And your story was written when they needed to save the town from the evil goblin lord and yada, yada, yada. Well, guess what? It doesn't happen that way sometimes. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen. The players are part of that story just as much as you put that inspiration and life in your story. Those players that roll the dice are just as important. Every single one of them. That's why for me, if I have an inspiring story or an idea, I bring it across to my players. I'm like, look, this is what I got. What do you think? They give you the thumbs up, thumbs down, maybe so, whatever. Here's one story, and I know Riley was in this arc. It was a 3-part story arc. It was a 3-shot, and it was called Vecna Rising. And I always wanted to do a Vecna story with technology. These guys were really strong men, and they were different races, but they were on a ship called the Intrepid, and they were paramilitary. On the ship, they had military uniform, skin tight. They had their rank, lieutenant, private, all that stuff. I really wanted that type of feel. I wanted sci-fi. I wanted realistic sci-fi and extreme, and then I wanted high fantasy too. So I took a mix of 3 genres and put it together and made Vecna Rising. And it was a 3-part series, and it was awesome. It was. Riley was in it. He enjoyed it. I hope he still enjoys it. But it was a really good 3-parter. It was awesome. At least I thought it was. And let me tell you that when you have that type of inspiration and you bring it across, I told the guys, I said, gonna start off level 17, anything goes. And they made some pretty tough characters, really tough characters. By the time they met Vecna, a lot of them were close to level 20, if not level 20. And it was a very fast 3-parter, but it was fantastic. It was hard hitting. It was scary. It was cool. It was cool. Hey, who's my favorite character in your current campaign? Great question, Riley. My favorite character is the NPC Lila. I think she's my favorite. She's a headliner for the story. She's the cleric that could summon multiple gods or channel gods. Lila is one of the characters that really brings life and energy to the story. She's a central part of the story. So without I'm trying to hold back without me slipping and saying something, because I like to talk. So if I slip or say something, excuse me. Try not to hear it. But no, Lila is very cool. Lila is based off my kid Delaney. She's my inspiration for that character. So I created Lila through that. Lila has her protector is a Minotaur. All right, we'll get to that. Her protector is a Minotaur, and a Minotaur is pretty strong. His name is Grom, and he protects her. To answer your question, Riley, what about your favorite player character, PC? Wow, that's a good question. My favorite PC right now, my favorite one, I think I like Eliza. Eliza's one of my favorite. Eliza started as an NPC, a non-player character, but now my other daughter, Colleen, is playing Eliza, and I think she gives life to Eliza more than I can. So she's really giving her life. Eliza, for example, is a stuck-up princess who her father and her mother want her just to be a princess. Well, Eliza wants to be a rogue. She is a rogue, but she doesn't want to do any of the princess stuff. She wants to adventure. And Colleen is doing such a great job role-playing her. So that's one of my favorite PCs. Out of the core group, all of them are my favorites. I love them all. I love Eli, who plays Edward, Timmy, Timmy, Andrew, Dom, Christian, all the guys, AJ. They play wonderful characters. So AJ plays Gerald, Dom, he plays Tayo. Timmy, he plays his tiefling, Therius, and Ed, or Eli, who plays Ed, awesome character. I love Ed. Hopefully that answers your question. I love them all. They're good. They're good characters. Andrew plays Brazil. He's a cool character too. So I love them all, but ultimately the one that stands out the most is Eliza, played by Colleen. She's doing a really good job with that. AJ, who plays Gerald, is doing a great job with that too. And he also plays Baron in the other side story I have, End of the Line. Hopefully that answered your question. Good questions tonight, guys. Good comments. So let's say in your campaign, we already talked about inspiration. We already talked about your NPCs. We talked about what makes your campaign go. Now, you have your beginning. If you can hear the puppy that's squealing right now in the backdrop, that's the puppy. He's 7 months, so you're gonna hear him every now and then in the backdrop. So that's part of it, right? So, anyways, getting back to what we're talking about. So you have all these elements in your campaign in the beginning. You have your drive. Now, what makes your campaign going? What keeps it going? What brings people back to your story? That's probably just as important as your inspiration. Why? Hooks. If you have cliffhangers, if you have elements of a story that could bring it to life, For example, if a character goes into a town and starts slaughtering people for no reason, or maybe they have a reason. Maybe they found an item, a sword, and that sword gave them something, gave them a hint of something, told them, manipulated them to go in the town and slaughter everybody. That's the hook, right? So now the other party members have to investigate, why is this happening? Let's stop their friend from doing that. But maybe the friend decided, I'm going to do that on my own. Those things bring everybody back to the story, will keep you into the story. What I like to do in my campaigns, I really like to have the story for what it is, bring everybody into that story, and then create something fresh and new every episode. Every story, every element, bring it up. I feed off of my players. What I mean by that is, if they're role playing good and they have a lot of energy, I'm gonna give them energy as well. I'm very good at improv. Improv, I've mentioned this before in my other DM talks. Improv is part of the campaign. Improv is a core to role playing. When some of your players do something like Riley mentioned earlier, he mentioned, what if somebody goes evil? How do you deal with that? That's part of improvisation. You have to improvise the situation. And of course, role play. Improv that setting, improv that scene. If they meet a dwarf, don't just say, well, you're meeting a dwarf with a long beard, what are you gonna do? I mean, you can do that. You're the DM. But bring energy to your game. You do that, it brings people back. Where they won't say, well, I'm not coming back to this table, it's boring. If you have a mystery and know the people that you have at your table, know what they like. If they like a little bit of combat, give them combat. If they like mystery and role playing, give them elements of all those things. That's part of what you do as a DM or GM. You have to do those things. Because if you don't, it'll create a boring game. You don't want that. Now, if you have 6 or more players and there's people waiting their turn, of course, folks are going to be looking at their characters. And a lot of my players have D&D Beyond app, and they have their characters on their phone. All right, have I ever been stumped or bamboozled during an improv situation? Yeah, I have. In fact, there was last episode, actually, it happened. And it wasn't written, and I just threw this out. And great question, Riley. I threw this out where I had a scene where they were in a maze, and there was a trap. A lantern was lit, and the lantern had a wire on top of it. It was held by a wire going up to the ceiling, around, and if you follow the wire, it was on the ground, it was connected to a sword. You grab the sword, you initiate the trap. Well, one of my other players, when he went in that room, Christian, for example, before Dom, AJ, and the rest of the party went in, Christian went in there and he made a perception roll. He got like a 24. He didn't see any of that at all. That was there, but I forgot about it. I had it written that it was there, but I forgot about it. So I had to come up with a way to bring it back in. All I did, when he left that room, the other players came in, they saw the trap. And then Christian stopped me and said, but I got a 24. They got an 18. I should have saw everything. And I said, you're right, but this is what you see. This is how you improv. This is what you see. You see the flicker of light. Oh, you don't see anything. They see the flicker of light. They see the sword. They see the wire. But you see something completely different. What? Now the light in the lantern is out. Then you see the wire is gone. You see the sword on the corner. What are you doing? You go to grab the sword. They don't see it anymore. So the two different rooms, from what I described, was two different rooms. A mirror realm. they were in two different dimensions. One went in, the other went in, and they saw things differently. I had to come up with something quickly because of my mistake. But I did mention it. I said, yeah, you're right. Christian, you're right. And I went ahead and described it. Now, was that cool? Yes, because I needed that item found. I wanted that item to be found by them. And they rolled good. They both did. One got an 18, the other one got a 24. One with the 24 should have seen it before anybody. But when I had the mirror dimension, two different dimensions, they saw something differently in each side. And one passed through and went in the other part of the maze, and the others stayed there and they saw the item. So it was a swap. So when one pulled the item, the other room, certain circumstances, situations happen differently. So in one room, they put out the light in the lantern, and it changed the events in room 2. And in room 1, they pulled the sword. And in room 2, there was something completely different. But it's the same room, different dimension. I pulled that one quick. I had to. I couldn't just say, well, we'll move on. I'm sorry. Yeah, I could have said that. I could have said, look, I'm sorry. But sometimes that happens in your game, and it happens with everyone. It happens with every DM. You just forget about things. You write, you do these things, you create elaborate events, and sometimes players just go over it, and you're like, oh. You get into your role playing, you're like, oh, well, they forgot their 3 items that was their room. I forgot to have them roll perception rolls. Or they roll too high and they see what they see. And that's cool too. Hopefully that answered your question. Improv situations are very difficult sometimes. For example, here's another one. When they meet NPCs, non-player characters, you gotta come up with a name, right? I have a list of names. There was one time where I could not come up with a name. My brain just went boom. And I told them, they asked, what's your name? And I looked at them and I was like, I cannot remember. I've been beaten so badly. I came up with the situation. I got beaten badly. They threw me in the wall. I can't remember my name. Help me remember. I have forgotten my past. I couldn't think of a name. It just killed me. I was like, I was dying. I couldn't come up with a name, but I did everything else. And it happens. It's comical, but it happens. Riley, thank you very much for your comments. That's awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Those are the things that, as a DM or game master, you really have to bring out. Bring out those elements. Because people are going to, they're going to stump you. Players are going to stump you. It happens to the best. It happens to everyone. And when it does happen, it's funny. Laugh it off. It's one of those moments where you have, your best character doing something, and he says this awesome word, role-playing wise. You're just coming up with a dialogue. The dialogue is so fantastic. And the hero pulls out his sword, and all of a sudden he rolls a dice, and it's a 1. Well, what happens then? You get a 1 on a die. You get a 1 on a die, and you've just created this big combat scene. You had the hero up against the villain, and the hero saying, "Don't worry. I will be the one to kill you before anyone else. My sword is stronger than you will ever be." And you say, "With one strike, I will kill you, fiend." And you pull your sword out and you roll your die and it's a 1. Well then, oops. That's role-playing. That's what makes it fun. Because in your campaign, you could have elements of mystery, elements of sci-fi, whatever element you have, and players will just pluck it right out. Or the die roll will pluck it out. In this scene, 2 heroic, I can't say that word, sorry, see what I mean? 2 heroes fight for death. One good, one bad, maybe bad, going off bad. They fight to the death because of ill will, because of differences. One is going to die. And the dialogue is very simple. "I will destroy you, my brother. You will not come up for this anymore. You will die here and now. There is nothing that's going to stop me unless you give me that amulet that you hold around your neck. That's changing you to the fiend that you are now." So you pull your sword out and you go to kill him. And you roll like crap. And you roll your massive die, very low numbers. And the battle continues. And as you fight to the death, both of you are very low in hit points. And as you battle, one of you fall. But you're the one that fell, not him. You're rolling horrible. You started to roll badly, and then the trend continues. So what do you do now? In your mind, in your story, the 2 heroes. One hero is controlled by the DM. The other hero is a player character. The one in DM is an NPC, and that hero has been going into the darkness. He's been drawn to the darkness. The darkness is overwhelming him, taking him to places he doesn't want to be. So instead, in your mind, you want the opposition to die, but it doesn't happen. You died instead. In your story, you have written that you killed the player character. In your mind, that's what you want to do. When you created the character, you tweaked him just enough to give him a power level that's stronger than the PC. As a DM, when you have an enemy, when you have a villain, you want that villain to be powerful. But sometimes the die, they say no, no. And you roll horribly. You look at the die and it's pathetic. You did barely 30 points damage. And he has over 100 hit points. What are you gonna do? He was rolling excellent, rolling 20s, giving him double damage. He knocked you down for the count. You have 40 hit points left. What are you gonna do? Live to fight another day? You can. But as you retreat, disengage, the PC goes after you. So the fight continues. And he ends up killing you. And if he does, Sarah, he does. The player character has killed your NPC. Remember, your story is not just yours. It's their story. They're the key elements of your campaign. So just like I mentioned in the beginning of this DM talk, the beginning, you have your inspiration. Draw that inspiration from books, novels, or whatever. Create a story idea, pitch it to your players, and start your campaign. And in the beginning, bring those elements, those hooks, to continue your campaign, and so your players won't die of boredom. Bring elements and hooks that'll draw them in further to your story. Or deeper into your story. Sorry. Those are the things that, as a dungeon master or a game master, you have to do. I don't care what book you've read, what guide you've read, you got to do it. It's just, you have to. When I have been to a game when I was younger, been to a role-playing game, a round table, DM, when he wasn't bad, I was playing Dungeons and Dragons. It was the earlier editions, and it was bad. He wasn't bad. The story wasn't bad. He had a lot of players, and he didn't have any hooks to the story. I'm not busting on him. I'm not saying that he was a crap DM or anything like that. I didn't say anything like that. So please don't misunderstand. All I'm saying is that he didn't give anyone that connection, that drive to bring them in. I'm not saying that every sequence or every scene has to be a connection, bring them in. No. But try to keep everyone absorbed. What are you doing? Player 1. Oh, I'm investigating this wall. Player 2. What are you doing? Oh, I'm helping. Oh, okay. Player 3. What are you doing? And so on. Ask them what they're doing and keep them involved. If 2 characters are investigating, create an element that's a part of the investigation. A trail of blood. Maybe they see a hidden door. Maybe they see a knife in the corner. Oh, I found the knife. Keep them, wow. Keep them there in the story. It's important. If you don't do that, there's going to be hell to pay in your game. Trust me, it will happen. If you have any part in your game that doesn't have any connection, doesn't give your players a chance to do anything, they're going to be bored. It's happened to me. It happens to everybody. You get into the campaign details, one player is doing this, the other players are looking around. It happens. Try as much as possible to bring everybody in as a whole. Sometimes people go from one room to another. They want to explore, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong And there's nothing wrong to that. You want to explore? Go and explore. But know this, they have to have a reason to be in those rooms. Give them a reason. Don't just let them, I'm just going in the room. Okay. Why? I'm exploring, I'm investigating. Okay. Breadcrumbs, trail of blood, items, treasure. Those are the things that you can do. It says it in the DM's guide. It says it in the player's manual. It says it all over. Any role-playing book. Not only that, it's part of writing the story. When the characters and the players, they go room to room or they talk about anything, just remember they're there for a reason. What is the reason? Why are they there? What did they find? Those are elements in the campaign. Now, what makes a campaign awesome? What makes a campaign emotional? Number one, improv. Number one thing. You could write, you could have that inspiration, everything I just talked about can be thrown away into the trash can, because if you don't improv, if you don't improvise scene to scene, because players will go off on their own. Oh, I want to go in that little room over there. Oh, I want to check out that hill. Oh, I want to check out that cave. You didn't write anything in the cave. Why are they going in the cave? Why now? Why do they go over there? Why do they go over there? Why are they even talking to that NPC? That NPC's a nobody. That NPC is just a merchant selling items. Why are they being so chatty with them? Players will do anything they want. It's a good thing. It keeps your mind sharp. It keeps you going. Because it tells you that you're not railroading anyone. My stories are open-ended. And anytime I roleplay, I ask them this: what are you doing? Player one says, oh, I'm doing this. I'm picking up the sword. I'm jumping on the horse. Okay? What else are you doing? That's it. I say key things. What else are you doing? What else are you going to do? Is that all? All right. Those are the things I say that give them a little bit of motivation. Because sometimes a player doesn't remember what they're doing. So you have to kind of like give them a little, like, a hit on their shoulder by verbally saying, hey, what are you doing? Where are you going? Are you going to go over there or not? No. Are you going to go over there? You could say, oh, you're controlling the story. You're making them go over there. No, you're just giving them little prods on the shoulder. Hey, what are you doing? Okay. Are you gonna continue here, or are you going somewhere else? What are you doing? That's all you're doing. You're giving the players hints. Say, hey, are you gonna move on? Or are you gonna stay there? What are you gonna do? Oh yeah, I'm moving on. Kind of pushing them along. Or her. Not along the way you want them to go, along to give them an idea. Oh, I gotta make a decision. Hurry up. Go. That's all you're doing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a way of giving them a hint to say, hey guys, let's move on. Instead of saying, let's move on, you say like this: player one, what are you doing? I'm searching the altar. I don't find anything. What else are you doing? That's it. All right, thank you. Player two, what are you doing? That's what you do. Politely say those things. It gives them a reason to go, oh, I'm doing this. Boom, I'm done. Anyways, that's all I have for you tonight. Next episode, we're going to talk about a lot of things. And it's going to be completely off the campaign topic. We're going to do something fresh and new. It's in the Dungeons and Dragons world. because that's what DM talks about. Not just Dungeons and Dragons, but other role-playing games. But next episode, I'm going to talk about something completely different. And just to remind you guys, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central, Campaign 2 continues, episode 14. Come and join us. We have an episode called The Maze. Check it out. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.